Defining development has long been a debated topic in global politics. Although initially seen through economic growth, environmental, political, cultural, and various other considerations have gained more importance as well. The studies of Abraham Maslow on the hierarchy of needs have also suggested development as a quest to fulfill human needs, from basic physiological to higher goals. Theorists such as Amartya Sen have also defined development as freedom, satisfaction, or human flourishing. It is evident that development is impacted by several different factors. Now, one of the fastest developing countries in terms of economic activity, growth, and trade, Kenya serves as a leading example which shows how various different factors inhibit or empower development. Located in East Africa, with coastline on the Indian Ocean, Kenya is populated by 50 million people. Its long history of migration and colonization is represented through the various ethnic groups and cultures that inhabit it. They include various descendants of East African tribes, Arabs, Asians, Bantu, and Cushitic and Niolic people. Religion is mainly concentrated in Christianity at 83% and Islam at 11%. The 68-year British rule in Kenya from 1895 marked the initial growth of its agrarian industries and its role as a British military base during the World Wars. However, significant racism, inequality, and conflict throughout the final decades of British rule impelled the realization of the limitations of colonization. 1952 marked the start of the end of the era of British rule in Kenya, and the start of the growth of independent equal trade for the Kenyan people. After being limited by several factors of conflict, political corruption, inequality, and economic throughout the past few decades, Kenya has been able to empower development through initial focus on economic and political factors. This documentary will give you an insight on Kenya's underdeveloped past, how it has attempted to develop, and where it is headed, and what we can learn from it. There are several factors as to why Kenya's development had long been limited. First, conflict played a great role in the disruption of trade and economic activity. Conflict in Kenya significantly from the 90s and throughout the mid-2000s revolved around issues in colonial policies, political instigation, dispute of land, lack of resources, theft, and ethnic group confrontations. Conflicts such as the Mount Elgon insurgency, the Somalian-Kenyan conflict, and the various terrorist attacks between 2011 and 2014 proved to slow Kenya's developmental growth. After a period of great economic growth modeled by increases in GDP and political reforms occurred between 2000 and 2005, it was not long until conflicts halted this growth, proving to be the most harmful obstacle in Kenya's path to development. Now, it is important to note that all of these factors are significantly interdependent. Let's look at the next most impactful factor, politics. Political instability in Kenya has played a great role as to why the country has been and partially remains divided, corrupt, and malfunctioning to this day. The years between 2000 and 2010 were marked by several political events which proved to halt efforts or even attempts of developing. According to Kenya's Corruption Index, one of few examples include reports stating that over half of Kenyans constantly pay bribes to the police, court officials, and are able to evade taxes without facing conviction. More so, excessive regulations or red tape impacted judicial, tax, public, and legislative systems. Political divide in Kenya has also shown the limitations it brought to development. From an economic standpoint, it was reflected through a reduction in the rate of increase in gross domestic product in the post-2005 market boom. However, it could also be seen from various other developmental perspectives. This brings us to the next factor, cultural. Although perhaps not amongst the most important factors, culture has a great role in facilitating trade, social stability, upholding human rights, and enhancing the circular flow of the economy. As Kenya is inhabited by several different African tribes and various different ethnicities as mentioned previously, it is no doubt that such factors play a great role in the development of the country. This was greatly evident during the 2007 and 2008 crisis. In the aftermath of a deemed illegitimate and corrupt election, clashes between several different ethnic groups led to over a year of economic, political, and humanitarian downturns. Economic factors play another great role in promoting development. Access to global markets, more capital, trade opportunities, and greater levels of income have significant benefits in enhancing quality of life, healthcare, education, and reducing welfare loss or externalities. However, relying solely on economic factors and access to capital has shown to have little importance in promoting long-term successful development. In the case of Kenya, It was important to secure the political and conflict factors first in order to secure the further goals of economic development. This was evident as the aftermath of the 2010 constitutional reforms that we will be covering in the upcoming section of the video.
Finally, regarding the environmental factors, Kenya has mainly long had troubles to keep up with the rate of its ever-growing population, preserving its natural resources, ecosystem, wildlife, and lowering pollution rates. One might ask, how does the prioritization and care towards such factors play a role in promoting development? The environment was not part of Kenya's priorities. Kenya suffers from high air pollution and mediocre air quality, which is the 8th cause of premature death, killing 5,000 people a year. The negligence of not taking care of the environment can be a consequence of natural disasters. Kenya has experienced many droughts due to global warming and pollution. This impacted 2.7 million people and food stocks.
In order to survive in this ever-changing modern world, Kenya had to take action to develop more efficiently. Let's take a look at what it has done to develop over the past decade.
As we looked at previously, development is made out of several interdependent factors which play a role to fulfill basic and higher human needs. Kenya has made significant structural and economic reforms that have largely driven economic growth, social development, and political development. The several conflicts that have taken place over the past decades in Kenya, as we have previously discussed, have significantly limited its ability to promote development. So let's find out what Kenya has done to reduce conflict. In this case, political and conflict factors are strongly dependent on each other. Kenya's political reforms have played a significant role in reducing the levels of conflict, and this is mainly evident in the aftermath of the 2010 constitutional reforms. The reforms ensure an increased equity between different ethnic groups. In addition, an equal opportunity for the representation of existing genders in the government. In particular, the feminist critical theory suggests that development can be achieved through the equal balance between females and males. The government has responded to high levels of communal violence locally through the disarmament campaign and deploying the General Service Unit to the areas affected by the sudden spike in violence. However, the campaign fails to address the political dimensions in the problem, with poor infrastructure and poorly paid police, making securing the locally affected areas difficult. Kenya continues to respond to security threats in regards to terrorism. The further increase in terrorism threatens to hinder development in Kenya as a result of the ongoing conflict with Somalia. In particular, in 2015, the government began constructing a barrier along the borders of Somalia to prevent attacks by the terrorist group Al-Shabaab, which sparked further debate on the idea that Al-Shabaab could be internally to Kenya, and further promoting fear amongst the Muslim and Somali communities. Kenya's most significant strength has been economic growth, now among the top 5 fastest growing economies in the world and 3rd largest in Africa. Kenya has focused on a market-based economy. This means that its market is solely controlled by the forces of supply and demand, with no government intervention. A key theory of Adam Smith and his capitalist theory of the invisible hand. Through this, it has been able to diversify economic activity, providing more employment opportunities and consequently greater income levels and standard of living. However, a few limitations it could bring is the concentration of monopoly power and potentially low social benefits. This is evident in the unequal distribution of electricity, for example. Further criticisms of such systems, such as the Karl Marx ideology, could propose that such capitalist systems eventually lead to conflict. Although that has not occurred yet, Kenya's history of post-economic growth conflict perhaps signifies uncertainty in long-term peace. China's Belt and Road Initiative has been essential to the long-term development in the region of Kenya. China has played a vital role after the construction of a $3.2 billion Monsabe-Nairobi Railway, known as the Standard Gauge Railway. For Africa's countries, the BRI is a beneficial option through China's financial strategy of grant, aid, and loan. China has also aided in security and peace projects, including the UN peacekeeping missions such as the African Union Mission in Somalia. As opposed to the previous attempts to foreign aid in Kenya, such models of aid promote development as a more organically, locally induced process. This can ensure the ability for Kenya to carry on such activity in the future. Economic growth, however, has been limited by the significant debt to foreign countries, and the IMF, which has increased around 60% of its GDP. Structural adjustment programs have also limited such growth. These are also loans by the IMF with the aim of improving competition and restoring balance of payment. However, they have led to the increasing income inequality.
Although Kenya has had significant attempts and success in certain aspects of developing, it is important that we know, is such a pathway one that is long-lasting and sustainable? How do we know that history will not be repeated? And what is it still lacking in order to secure long-term developmental success? First of all, let's look at what is expected in terms of sustainable development. Such consideration is crucial when considering long-term and effective development. With its growing population and the existence of several natural limitations, it is crucial that Kenya incorporates several environmental considerations with its evolving capitalist system. Such ideology is key in the theory of a reformist ecology.
Currently in Kenya, there is some inclinations towards the incorporation of environmental considerations into its market. However, this is not enough to ensure true long-term success. Being Africa's most solar-rich country, the primary suggestion of its adaptation of better regulations to monitor the energy supply and the unfair access to electricity. Although it may not be clear for environmental factors, it seems bright and positive for the economic factor. Kenya hopes to become a middle-income country and high quality of life to all its citizens by year 2030. In order for Kenya to achieve their goals, they have to plan out incoming projects. They aim to increase national industries like GDP from 1.5% to 10% by year 2030. And in addition to this, 435,000 new jobs. They also plan to diversify the economy to IT, tourism, and fish processing. They also target to improve infrastructure by building 500,000 affordable houses for Kenyans. All these new projects will have very positive impact on the economic growth, putting Kenya on the right path. So what does Kenya teach us? What to do and not what to do when trying to improve the conditions of developing nations? The case study of Kenya has made it evident that with the ongoing conflict and political instability, effective development in a traditional recognized form is not achievable. Another key takeaway is that countries need to ensure long-term considerations and policies, in particularly the representation of gender and ethnic groups in the government and further addressing the sustainability in Kenya vision of 2030. Otherwise, just like Kenya, short-term development booms will be followed by continual sudden downturns. However, although Kenya continues to grow, it faces challenges associated with sustainability and reduction of conflict. Ongoing representation factors like the continuous security threats and conflict within the ethnic groups could hinder the overall development of nations. The lesson that Kenya teaches us is the ability for developing nations to continue developing with the model that incorporates sustainability, social, and the overall reduction of conflict. It teaches us not to ignore conflict, but rather proactively create policies and promote peace in the region.